So I'm going to tell you about what architects do, and I would like to invite you all to do the same. Now, architects don't actually build buildings. We conceive them. Architecture is a prospective activity. It's about projecting into an unknown future. Now, we live in a human environment, and all of you sitting here probably spend all of your time in an environment that has been designed by human intervention, and that includes the landscape. Most of that time is spent in the built environment, or in particular, within buildings or houses. The thing that's important to keep in mind when we think about this human environment is that people have decided to make things a certain way. The good news about that is, of course, that we can all make decisions to make things another way. The most important thing, of course, is to try to make things better. We can, in fact, make a better human environment. In particular, to make that environment more human. How do we do that? Well, it's pretty easy to build a box to keep the rain out. But how do you make a building that will interact with people, that will stimulate them, that will challenge them a little bit? Maybe bring a little ray of sunlight in every day, a bit of a different way. Architects basically work with three questions. I'm going to be allowed to share those with you today. The first one is where? Where do we build? And the second one is how? How do we build? And the third one is why, exactly. Why? Why do we build? And it's not so much a pragmatic issue. There are lots of reasons to build. But the real question is, why did we choose to build this? This is a picture from one of my building sites. I like to think of this ladder, this very simple building construction ladder, as an invitation. It's a kind of challenge to climb to a horizon that we're not used to and to make things better. When the local building code says that a house has to be stone-colored in order to fit in with the other buildings, I said to myself, well, why can't we just build it out of stone? I mean, you can't get more stone-colored than stone, right? People have been doing it for a very long time. This is the Pont du Gard near Nîmes. Some of you may recognize it this way, in its simplified European identity version. The stone that I work with comes from exactly the same quarries that the Romans used to build this aqueduct. Building with stone is an amazing experience because stone is an all-in-one material. It's kind of a magical material. You can build walls and you can hold up the roof with those walls. You don't have to add insulation. You don't have to add waterproofing. The stone will retain the sun's heat and keep you cool. And the stone breathes. And quite frankly, the material is magnificent. You build one of these walls and you really don't have a lot else to do. What's more, these walls will probably stay up for a long time, maybe even millennia. Here's the pool. The other thing that the building code in this area required was that you couldn't build anywhere where there wasn't already a building. Now, that's a bit of a contradiction. I told my clients, well, then, why don't we sink the pool into the ruins of the existing buildings? So that's what we did, and we actually kept one of the windows so that when you're swimming in the morning, you can see the sun come up. This is another project for a winery in the south of France. It's quite a big building. It's near a famous monastery. It's the Abbaye de Tournai. And so we wanted to keep a sort of low profile, and we decided to sink the building into the hill. There are lots of advantages in doing that because we can actually take advantage of the thermal inertia of the soil and use a natural winemaking process through gravity. The building then becomes a horizontal line in the horizon of this very undulating, very generous landscape. This building is built with stone blocks that are 1 meter by 1 meter by 50 centimeter thick and are solid stone blocks. They weigh each exactly 1 ton, which is 1,000 kilograms. Now that sounds like a lot, but it's actually a very human scale. And so when you walk next to the building, you can kind of relate to it. And you can see the scale figures here. When people walk by these stone slabs that are very smooth and have a sort of warm honey color, people are invited to actually touch the walls. This is the inside. I discovered something in building this building, which was that we tend to think of beautiful landscape as something that requires a panoramic window. You sort of want to see everything. As these pillars show, in a way, they act, in fact, kind of like a telescope to the landscape. They pick up individual items in the landscape that you wouldn't otherwise see, so you can actually see individual trees and see the vines. It's an interesting phenomenon. I'm going to finish with one more project, which is a proposal we made for an extension to the Louvre Museum in Paris. The Louvre Museum, as you probably know, is a series of courtyards that opens out onto a park. But historically, it wasn't always this way. There was, right in the middle, right here, a building. And the most important part of the Louvre, in fact, was called the Palais des Tuileries. In 1871, the communards decided to burn it down. After them, because it was the seat of imperial power, and after them, the Republic decided to actually tear down the walls that were left because for them it was the sign of royalty. We're not supposed to talk about politics here, but a few years ago, somebody decided that maybe we should rebuild exactly a replica of this king's palace at this place. In reality, the Louvre Museum today is actually a pretty modern place. And the building that it's in comes from a history of architectural innovation. So we thought, well, maybe there's another way to do this. Our proposal was then to not impose a project for a king, but to try to address the people who are actually going to be using this place, so the visitors to a museum. We thought maybe we could develop a democratic process for making this project. So instead of building something from the past, maybe we could build a temporary building, and so people could see what the effect would be. Instead of building for a king, we thought maybe we could, and closing off effectively the garden from the Louvre, which the palace did before, we thought we could actually take advantage of this walk through the park, lead it up through the building, so that people would have new views, the king's view, in fact, of the palace and of Paris. And then they could be led out down to the park. The idea was that this would be a building for temporary exhibits. The park, the walk through the park, could actually stay open even when the museum was closed. This is the temporary proposal, where people could actually experiment the building. If people liked it, then they could decide, we could discuss and debate, and we could decide that maybe we could try to build something similar as a permanent building. Now, a lot of you are probably thinking, I tend to get a lot of quite violent reactions to this proposal, because people immediately say, but wait, what about the famous axial view that goes all the way to the Arc de Triomphe? Well, I invite you to go there, next trip to Paris, and you will see that the only place that you actually can see all the way to the Arc de Triomphe is when you're standing next to this Arc du Carrousel and you look through the gate. And there you have a view through the trees and through the park, and there you see it. We, of course, would not close that off. Our idea is, in fact, that we would frame that view and frame other views as well. And this is what it might look like if we decided to build a permanent building. And you can all relax, this is just a proposal. The question is, do we want to make stone-colored buildings? Or can we actually make them out of stone? Do we want to make a replica of a residence for a king? Or do we want to make a walk through the park for visitors to a museum? Can we improve our human environment? And it's that human environment that I invite all of you to question.